Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Steffi. Now, I'm not a former designer. I'm a designer.
Sorry,
And,
sorry.
that's a big mistake.
Big mistake, sorry.
And this is part of my few words I would like to mention today. But before we get there, first let me welcome you. Now, I'm doing some bureaucracy. One thing you learn is that you need to do some bureaucracy part. So the bureaucracy part is welcome to Erste Campus, welcome to Erste Group. Thank you for joining us. And you're right, we are a 200 years old organization. But it doesn't make a lot of difference. What it counts is what we do today and what we're going to do tomorrow. I would like to thank all the colleagues from Erste Group who join us today. When I started to work for a bank, I mean from inside the bank. I used to work for a bank as an agency before, but when I started to work for a bank inside the bank, there were no designer in the bank, not a single one. And now there are many of them in every country where we operate, and I believe this is part of why we have been successful over the last years, why our industry has transformed, or at least the region where we are operating today has transformed so radically, because creative people have been taking part of that transformation. Banking is not for banker anymore. Banking is for creative people. Banking is for writer, designer, musician. Banking is part of everyday life of people, and therefore I think we play a role. We as a designer could play a strong role into that. So thank you for all the colleagues who join across from 7 countries where we are operating in the region. But let me thank all the other guys who join us today. I mean, when Steffi and Daniel and the other guys from the design team came to me with the idea of the conference, I would not say I was skeptical, but I was impressed by their enthusiasm. And I thought, okay, fine, let's do something for our own designer. I was very small in that, right? And they say, no, let's open it up for everyone else. And I think by simply trusting the enthusiasm of my colleagues, I made the right decision ever. And you guys here are the result of that enthusiasm. And so I hope this is not going to be only one time. I hope we're going to build up this community and continue further next year. And but let me thank you who are not coming from Erste Group. So why are you here, right? And well, all of you have made a difference. The one of you working for banks, and especially the one of you working for fintech. I'm sure, how many of you working for fintechs? All right, so you guys have done a fantastic job. It has been inspiration for me. It has been inspiration for our team. And I have to say, I utilize a lot of your work to convince our board and our bank to invest on new technology. That's on one side. On the other side, you have served us as an inspiration in terms of challenging stuff. Very often, during the last 10 years, my 10 years career in banking, I had you can imagine, and probably you do every day, I had a lot of discussion with legal, with compliance, and normally what you get is this is not allowed or this is not possible. And then the classical answer, as I'm a user of all of your application, I'm quite sure I'm client of most of your apps out there, I say, well, those guys are doing it. And so if they are doing it, why we can't do it? And my killer argument was, well, if they are doing it and you believe this is illegal, let's sue them. So I was always going to legal and say, look, they're doing it, let's sue them. Let's bring them to court. If you believe this is not really allowed by the law and they are doing it anyway, let's bring them to court. And what you figure out is that that's not really the case. The case was that they really push the level of, you guys have pushed the level of how to deal with financial services to a point where it really makes a difference. And it was a great inspiration for us, and it will continue to be so. And I hope one day we will also be seeing from all the other in the industry as an inspiration to move the service further. Now, what design has to do with banking? So it's not so obvious. And sometimes I meet some friends in the industry, creative agencies and people working on industrial design. And actually, finances and financial matters is not really so clearly associated with design. So if I want to be a global design star, probably I will not start working for a bank, right? Or working within a bank. I think there is a lots of correlations between banking and design attitudes. And I would like to mention a few of them to you. The first one is, a designer, this is my opinion, my definition of design. A designer is someone which is able to resolve complexity. And there is nothing much more complex than the financial industry. Therefore, I think creative people working in a bank exactly are targeted to solve complexity. Making something which is really complex, easy. What I've learned the last 10 years is that many people do not manage their finances properly, not because they don't want to, simply because they don't think they are capable of. What they have experienced themselves over the last 10, 20, 50 years is that, banking is complicated, it's only for the professional, I'm not rich enough, I don't have enough money, I will never pull it off, so it's not, why to bother, right? So I think we have a capacity to make complex things easier, and I think that's why I think designer and financial matter fits very well. The second area is we are customer focused. Designers are by nature customer focused. I used to say, and I know maybe can disagree with that definition, the difference between a designer and an artist, and I'm happy, I don't consider myself an artist, I don't know how many of you consider themselves an artist, but the difference between a designer and an artist is solving the problem for himself. He's solving his own problem, and the result of his artwork. And people will like it or not. A designer is always solving a problem of someone else. And so customer focus is what we are able to do, what we are doing by trade. That's what we have been instructed, what we have educated about. And this idea of putting empathy into a boring service like banking is exactly what we do better than anyone else. So there is so much need of those skills and characteristics in our industry. Then I'm very pleased that we, but also you guys, are putting so much passion on it. So customer focus and empathy. The third thing, which is not so obvious, is we are good as designers dealing with limits. So a designer is not someone who just take a white sheets of paper, put it in front of you, and I sketch something out, right? Normally, as a designer, you get the briefing with some limitation, you get the budget or you get the goal, and you need to deliver a creative idea to reach those objectives. Well, in banking, it's very similar. Our limits are regulations. Of course, there is a business ambition on the side from the organization, but our limits are regulations, are common sense, are complexity on the topic. So we are used to build stuff with limit. And actually, I even stretch it a bit further. The more limit we have, the more is necessary to be creative. So the more you put clear borders on the job, the more a designer can make a difference. And I think all of you and many of us are pretty good on that. So these are the three characteristics, I believe, design and design thinking and design-minded people fits very well with the financial industry. Now, why is this so relevant today? Well, because in the last 10 years, and I experienced this myself in my career in the banking moved out of the branches. In the last 30 years ago, 20 years ago, banking was something you were doing by simply walking into a store and getting someone talking to you, right? Now, what happened with technological revolution and the technological innovation over the last 20 years moved banking out of those dedicated spaces and put banking in the pocket of all our customers. And this has two consequences. One, the people who build banking in the phone or on computer, doesn't matter, have a certain responsibility. And second, it opens up actually a new world of opportunity for our customer that started to do things themselves. And this is the gigantic challenge in front of us. Are we done? I think we are just at the very beginning. There is a consultancy in London who said digital banking is, online banking, digital banking, whatever, I don't remember what it is, but they say is 1% done. And I think they're completely right. Digital banking is 1% done. We are just at the 1%, and there is a 99% to go. And I think you are in the right industry, we are in the right industry, and I think it's going to be a great time forward. So, what is my call? Why I'm here and talking to you, and why we have financed this event, and why we believe this is so important that you come here. Because I believe you, any of you, have a chance to have an impact on your organization. Wherever your organization you're having, what you're working on, a startup, a small startup, a medium startup, a unicorn, a large bank, a small bank, doesn't matter. There is a need of your creativity in the boardroom. Don't stay on the designer floor. Move up. This is good. This is good for the organization. When I was nominated, I really made some statements saying every big company needs a designer in the boardroom. And when I mean that, I don't mean that you need a person who is turning into a manager. I really mean that you need a designer in the boardroom with the design mindset, with the capability to see on the side, to have a different perspective on things, to solve complex problems in a simple way, to have sense of details and sense of execution and sense of quality. People on the boardroom who is able to differentiate between Helvetica and Open Sans. This is a rare skills, but is heavily needed. That little difference, that little thing make a difference in many cases. The quality of execution, looking at the language, and not only a number. So please, my call to all of you is, there is a huge world of opportunity in front of us, and my prediction is within the next 10, 20 years, most of the large companies in the world will have a creative person on the board and on the level below the board. So my call to you is, move out of the design ground, stay a designer, continue to act and behave as a designer, but inspire others by moving to a different level of the organization. And I believe all organizations will need your help. So this is my call. Take it for what it is. I strongly believe in that. And I wish you a great conference, and we see each other later probably. I hope so. Thank you very much.